Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Got a Case of Wanderlust podcast. I'm your host, Lydia, and today we are on our last segment of the modern day colonialism within travel series. And if you've been with me for the past 4 episodes now, I humbly thank you for your willingness to engage with difficult conversations and things that aren't really discussed, but are nevertheless very important as for us to become better travelers and continue doing what we love in a better and more positively impactful way. And with that, I'm going to go into my last point about modern day colonialism within travel, which is entitlement. So actually, the world is not your oyster. Just because you have the legal and economic means to travel somewhere and do whatever you want doesn't mean you should. We should all remember that traveling is a privilege that not everyone has for economic or monetary or political means in terms of nationality or passport strength. Just because you have greater power as a tourist than local people in some destinations, either economically or politically, it doesn't excuse you from being respectful to the people and places you interact with. And I'm not really speaking to the people who are listening, because I hope if you're listening, you're a respectful tourist, but this is just a general thing I want to put out into the world. So how can we not be problematic tourists? So let's not act entitled just because we're on vacation. The stereotype of that American tourist is unfortunately true, and let's try to avoid that by all means possible. Let's not ignore local customs or laws/rules. Let's not assume the locals know English. Let's try to put effort into learning some words of the local language, because it's a privilege to speak English, and we can't assume that everyone has had the privilege to learn English well or understand us, because again, we're visiting their home. We shouldn't expect them to abide by our norms in our world, because we're in their world now. Let's not bargain to get the cheapest price possible, especially if there's not a significant difference in your home currency. And this one is, I think, especially important to remember, because I see bargaining, how to bargain for the cheapest price so often, and it's actually problematic, because if we're bargaining over a few dollars worth, which actually, a few dollars in our home currency, which I'm from the United States, a few dollars is actually it goes a long way in destinations where the currency isn't as strong. And so if we're bargaining to lower the price point of a certain thing by a few dollars, it doesn't mean that much to us, but it could actually mean a huge difference to the person we're buying from. So let's just be humble about, our privilege and know that our money actually can go a long way in another person's community. And yeah, let's just not get upset if things aren't how they are at home, because you're traveling abroad after all. If you want things to be exactly how you want to be at home, like if you want your McDonald's, now I'm really speaking to the American stereotype, but if you really want food from at home and the comforts and luxuries you have at home, then why are you traveling in the first place? And here are some ways you can be a better tourist. 1, we can educate ourselves as much as possible on the place that we're visiting. Abide by local customs, traditions, and history. Let's learn basic words in the local language and put effort into using them. Let's dress appropriately in more conservative places like sacred or religious sites. Let's remain open-minded about the things that we see and experience. Let's actually be curious, rather than judgmental, which is something I'm definitely guilty of, because again, we're all human. None of us are perfect, and sometimes it's easy to let our cognitive biases get in the way of connecting and to learning. But to try to remove as much preconceived notions of a place as possible, and going into a place with a blank slate. And finally, let's act like we're guests in someone else's home. because we are. We can't completely rid power imbalances when we travel, but we can be more mindful of them so we could try to minimize the harmful impacts they cause in the destinations we are so fortunate to visit. And I have some more resources for further reading if you're interested, which I will link in the show notes. And again, they're on the article that I have on my blog about all of these past episodes. So just really quick, I'll shout out the gotravelandtalk.com website. Eastern Times has a thing about when you travel, don't be a colonizer. That's the title of their publication. And then Bonnie and Moore is someone who is deeply speaks about colonialism within travel, and a lot of her work is really valuable to take in. So she has a link tree which I'll leave for you guys. I really encourage you to check her out. She has different podcasts too, as a guest on different shows. And finally, we have Rooted Storytelling, which has some articles about decolonializing tourism. So with that, I will leave us all some time to reflect on what we've learned in the past episodes, and I will continue to research myself and post about my findings on future articles and content on my social media page, on my Instagram. I'm really passionate about promoting more mindful tourism and responsible travel. So yeah, hopefully any of these resources can enlighten you, to inspire you to move through this world in a more light and loving way. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for listening. And if you liked this series, I would love to hear your insight, your comments. My DMs are always open, and reviews are welcome. You can review this on Apple Podcasts by writing a review or giving me a star rating on Spotify by visiting my homepage. So with that, signing off for now, and I'll see you in future episodes. Bye!